Welcome, fellow beekeepers. This is Jamie Walters, your live webinar training host. I'm pleased to share this educational webinar in hopes to make you a better beekeeper. Live sessions are now recorded on the fourth Sunday of each month at 7 o'clock p.m. through Zoom conference call. You're welcome to reserve a ticket at www.eventbrite.com. Search for Ohio State Beekeepers Association's events and click Tickets. Register by filling in your name and email address, and a confirmation email will be sent to you with a Zoom link. Each training session is recorded and posted on OSBA's YouTube channel. You're welcome to subscribe and be sure to click the bell to be alerted each time we upload a new video. Each month's speaker and presentation will be posted on OSBA's Facebook page and on our website at ohiostatebeekeepers.org. You're welcome to subscribe to the live webinar training news group to be alerted at the beginning of each month. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact us at live-webinar-training@ohiostatebeekeepers.org. And now on to our previous recorded webinar. And everybody, I give you Mr. Bob Walters.
All right, thank you, Jamie. Good evening, everybody there in Ohio. I assume you're all in Ohio. You may be someplace else. As he said, I'm Bob Walters. I'm with FieldWatch. I'm joined this evening with Curt Hadley, my colleague, and to talk a little bit about our registry, what we do, how we do it, how it benefits you, how it benefits agriculture in general. So bees are certainly critically important to everything that goes on now in agriculture. So we really like the opportunity for us to participate in that. It's probably been 10 plus years ago or so, just as a matter of a little bit of background. In central Indiana, northwest Ohio, and southern Michigan, there was a lot of crop loss, and specifically tomatoes were being lost due to off-target movement of chemicals, drift, and it got so expensive for the tomato processor, who is a private one in central Indiana, with their farmers. They were losing thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars each year in crops and yields. So they turned to Purdue University and said, we really need to figure out a way to identify where the crops are and share that with the organizations, the groups, the people that are spraying chemicals nearby. They were spraying and they weren't drifting intentionally. It was just they didn't know what was there. They didn't know that in 2021 there were tomatoes in that field because last year there was corn. And that was pretty typical with vegetables. They rotate fields. So you kind of move forward a little bit. Purdue developed a mapping program for the tomato processor, and that was really the plan, to use it there and use it in Indiana, Ohio, and Michigan. Well, it got huge acceptance and a lot of interest. So other crops got interested, grapes, other vegetables, other sensitive, or what we defined as specialty crops, were interested in putting their sites on the map and to share that with pesticide applicators. So early on, bees were treated as another crop. So it grew to the point after we started adding more crops, it grew to Michigan, to Illinois, and to Wisconsin, some other states. And it got to a certain point that the university decided that we need to do something with this, because they were spending money and taking care of everything. It was on their computers. They were doing the marketing, the programming, everything. And they moved the tool, DriftWatch, which a lot of you know DriftWatch as the tool, the primary name. They moved that tool out of the university to a private company, a nonprofit company, and they named that company FieldWatch. So that's who Curt and I work for. And DriftWatch is one of our 4 registries that we have now. We've added 3 more since we rolled out DriftWatch, and each of them have a specific focus in the agriculture industry. So we did that. We moved it out. We formed a company, nonprofit, figured out how to fund it and how to grow it, and get the screen here. There we go. The mission 10 plus years ago is the same mission we have today, that we want to provide a secure, easy to use online mapping system that communicates to pesticide applicators. And it doesn't matter if they're spraying agriculture, which was the original intent, or if they're spraying under power lines or spraying for mosquitoes. Anybody that's spraying can be aware of where there are specialty crops or something sensitive to what they're spraying, or beehives. So the mission that was 10 plus years ago is still our same mission today. We're a communication tool connecting parts of agriculture together to help everybody become a better steward. So yeah, as you can see, we started, the map in the middle shows how we started in Indiana. We've grown across the United States. The mapping registries on the left-hand side that we now use. We'll go into a little bit more of them. We're going to spend probably a few more minutes on BCheck, which is the tool that either you have used or you're familiar with. And then on the right side, it shows a couple of apps that we developed over the last few years. Mostly because there was a request and demand for having an app. It used to be that you could use a phone or a tablet and you could go onto our website, but it would get all scrunched down and look kind of kludgy. So these are true apps. They're free to use. You could download the BCheck app. You could do it during this meeting and probably map your hives by the time that the meeting's all done. It's pretty simple. It works with both Android and iOS devices. And then we have an app for applicators called FieldWatch. That's the online portal for applicators to use. And we continue to work with private applicators, co-ops, retailers, anybody that's spraying chemicals, to download and use that app to be aware of what's either nearby, adjacent, or downwind. So this is a definition that we're a nonprofit company, kind of a standard definition, how it started, formed in 2012. And that's when FieldWatch was formed. DriftWatch started a few years before that. And then the definition of each of the registry tools that we have today. And then, so as you're sitting here thinking about and seeing FieldWatch, you're saying, well, why FieldWatch? Well, first and foremost, it's about stewardship, and it's about working together in agriculture. It's about communicating, applicators communicating to you communicating to applicators. It's giving them access to information and knowledge so they can make an informed decision. And the other key thing is it's voluntary. It's free and voluntary. And it was set up free and voluntary really to encourage use and make it easier to use. And we believe, based on the growth numbers we've seen in the last 10 years, that the voluntary nature of this really has been significant, made a significant impact in terms of people using it, not being told they have to. A few years ago, Ohio, they ran a tool called the Ohio Specialty Crop Registry, or OSCAR, and they partnered up with us, and we moved that functionality into FieldWatch. So OSCAR, which you formerly used OSCAR, you're now using a DriftWatch or BCheck, all run by FieldWatch. So it just allowed the state to focus some of their energies on some other things and allow us, because that's what we do for a living, is run these registries and communicate to applicators of where sensitive or crops or bees are. So how does it work? It's pretty simple. When you go to spray, or when somebody goes to spray, they already know where they're going. They know what equipment they have. They know their chemicals. They know the weather or the weather forecast. The question that we answer with our registry is what may be nearby, adjacent, or downwind from where they're going to spray. And as an applicator, for them, the label is the law. So they need to be aware of what the labels say in terms of what they're spraying, what chemicals they're spraying, whether they're harmful to pollinators, or they have to do it during a certain time of day, or they have to do it when the wind is a certain between certain times or different directions. So, but we answer that unknown question, and as in several other states, Ohio has had a lot of growth in the last few years in terms of what sites are on there in terms of both specialty crops as well as bees. So this is just a quick slide that says, as a nonprofit entity, in order to fund what we do, we have support from the Department of Agriculture in Ohio, sponsors, member states, producers, that type of thing. So all with the intent of keeping everything free. Here's our board of directors. The one name you may recognize on there is Jennifer Cerruta, who's with the University of Tennessee. She represents Beekeepers for us. She is an entomologist with the University of Tennessee and is nationally known as a speaker. So she joined our board last year. And you can see some of the other people that are on there. And here's a few of the sponsors that sponsor us today. As I said, we're set up, we're a small organization, but this helps us as we are providing services, not just in the states, 22 states, but also in Canada today. So here it is, 22 states, Canada. We are in conversation with a few other states right now. We'll see as that evolves. Some of the states are working towards pollinator plans. Some are concerned about specialty crops. There's a variety of things. So that's the footprint. With that, I wanted to show you a couple of views. I'm going to move this thing down there so I can see it. I'd move that. So what you'll see here, we have two different users in our system. We have a producer user, which would be a beekeeper or specialty crop producer or a row crop producer. We now have row crops in there. And then we have applicators. And so what you're looking at is the applicator view on the right, or the beekeeper view. That's a beekeeper account. And that little yellow circle that's on there, that's a helpful hint on the map. When you place a beehive on the map, you set up an account. We'll let you know via email that the account's set up. You map a location, and then you submit it. That information and that data goes to the Department of Agriculture, and they look at it and they approve it, and then it goes on the map. We don't do that. We use local support, local resources in Ohio. Our data steward there in Ohio that works for the Department of Agriculture does it. So we're fortunate to have a great team there to work with us. But when you put a beehive on, it's going to give an exact latitude, longitude on it. And we put a little yellow circle around to make it easier to identify. The left-hand side shows a variety of crops. You can see on there those little pins. And then on the left-hand side, far left, it says the different sites that are there. Each one of those pins represents what we define as a site. It could be a beehive site. It could be a crop site. Our map is a little confusing, I think, for beekeepers because we have both red hives and yellow hives on there. Everything started to be yellow with a yellow bee, as right here in the middle of this map. But we had some requests from beekeepers to be able to identify the number of colonies or hives at a certain apiary location. So we created this little beehive looking thing with hatches. If you see one of those, that would indicate there's more than one colony at that location. And then a few states have registries, or they require beekeepers to register with the state. And in those cases, we make those hives or the beehive locations red. You can see one right at the top. You can see that red bee. That person is registered with the state. Some states charge a fee, some don't. Most of the time, the state's using that data to communicate, to maybe do inspections, that type of thing. So as I mentioned, we have another view called the Applicator View, and their portal is called FieldCheck. And I'm going to show you what that looks like online here in a minute, because I think it's helpful for you to know what they see and how they have access to the information. As you probably can tell, on the right side is the state of Missouri. And then on the left side is just a view that is that somebody has zoomed in, and you can see the polygons that were drawn by the farmer. You know, it's a Google map tool, so you can zoom in and out with the plus and the minus, or you can zoom in and out with your mouse. It's pretty simple. The applicator also could use the FieldCheck app to see the same information. Down the left-hand side, you can see the list of crops. So if they only want to look at beehives, they can just click these on and off. They only want to look at certified organic, they could click those on and off. So that's how it works. So the view is the same. Doesn't matter what type of user you are. So here we are, state of Ohio. There's a lot of bees. So you have a state registration system, and you can see it says Oscar up here at the top, Ohio Specialty Crop Registry. We left that name up there and left the branding. So you'll see that, I don't know, Curt, how many beehives and what are the numbers for Ohio?
Okay, so currently, as of the middle of the month, Ohio has just over 6,400 beehives in about 969 unique apiaries, a little over 32,000 acres mapped all across the state, a total of 1,400 plus producers. And so that producers is both growers and beekeepers grouped together. And then currently about 660 registered pesticide applicators.
Okay, yeah, wow. Those are some good numbers. So you can see that this what it at a high level, this is what it looks like for somebody that just wants to look at the system. The other thing that that you may know is that in Ohio, you have to sign in to be able to see this site here. In our other states, there's a public view where you can just go and look, but you have to be signed in either as a beekeeper or an applicator. So not everybody can see the information that's on the map. That's how it was set up with Oscar, and so we just continued that philosophy for Ohio until they decide they want to change it. But that limits the viewing and access for people to see the data that's on the map. So this is a location that's in Pennsylvania, obviously. A few weeks ago, we presented to the Lackawanna Beekeeping Club in near Philadelphia, and this, we clicked on one of those little beehive locations, and this is what popped up. So when you put your information in there, if you haven't done it already, this is how it looks. So it shows when it was submitted and approved in Pennsylvania, how many hives are there, and then on the right side, it says this hive expires. And I'm going to pause a minute and at least just kind of explain this. Because of the importance of the data in our map, and because the integrity of the data is so important, and we want to make sure that we have valid data for applicators to use. It doesn't matter if they're spraying weeds or they're spraying land. We want to make sure it's a valid. So annually, we will send a message, and some of you may have received if you already are signed up with us from the past, and it says, is everything the same in 2021, basically, as it was in 2020? You can click yes, and it stays on the map. And then this expiration up here will change to 2022. Or you can alter it. You can modify it. You can add more hives. You can delete things. If it's a crop, you can change the crop, that type of thing. So we do that annually. We start sending messages in February, and we've been sending them now for the last 4 or 5 weeks. And with the expectation that we would get hopefully 90% or more of the beekeepers to reply. We don't get everybody reply, we know that. Same with the crop producers, not everybody replies to the email. But what does happen at the expiration date, if we don't have an acknowledgement, then we will archive the location, whether it's a beehive or a crop. And that's intentional because we want to make sure that it's legitimate. The data is legitimate for somebody that's spraying. It's easy to put it back on the map if you miss it or if there's confusion. That's really simple. The data steward can do it there in Ohio. We can do it, or you can do it yourself. But just want to make sure everybody knew that at the point that they expire, the data is still in our system, but they just won't show up in the map. So we encourage everybody to go through that. It's a pretty simple process, and it's important that we have valid data there. So this is the contact box that somebody would see when they would click on that. So this is a little pop-up. It's actually on my account that I have. And when I logged into my account several weeks ago, it popped up and said that I need to renew these ones that are in orange on the left-hand side. And so I didn't even need the email. I could just go in there and log in and do the same thing. So you could, if you don't want to mess around with the email, just log into your account, check it out, and know that this information will pop up if you haven't renewed it already. And then remember that next year, in 2022, we're going to ask you the same question. We only do it once a year, just to make sure everything is valid, because what we have to make sure of is that what's on the map is actually legit. This is how you use the program. This is the couple of the apps. I won't go into a lot of this because you can definitely download them yourself. This is what the FieldCheck app looks like. This is for the applicators. The sign in here, and these are 3 different views. It's kind of a screen that's a whole collection here. Probably a better way of doing this on PowerPoint, but that's what we have today. And then one thing I at least wanted to make sure that you are aware of, one of the ways that our data gets used or really magnifies the view of it, because what's key for FieldWatch is that we're getting what we say in the simple, we're getting eyes on the data. We're getting people that need to know where things are, applicators, getting their eyes on the data. And so we've partnered up with some software companies here listed on the left. They pull the data, and they pay us a nominal fee to pull the data. They put it on their mapping system, whether somebody is driving a ground sprayer or flying in an airplane. They put it on that map for those applicators, and they can see it in one system. So it's a single source there. They don't have to toggle back and forth. A couple of examples on the right-hand side. This is a John Deere product at the top right. This one down here is Polite Plant Online, used by aerial applicators. AgriSmart's the company. And then down below, I think this is Surety Pro, which is another one. So anyways, these are some of the ones we work with today that actually extracted it and has helped get access today. Because other than that, the only people that would see it would be applicators that are looking at it with us. This magnifies the views of our data probably by 15 or 20 times. It's amazing how many people are using this to make decisions, or they may not change what they're doing, but they may change the time of day, the day of the week, or they may call you. So that's the intent of this, is to communicate. This is how you sign up. And this is what and I think Jamie had this on, this is the fieldwatch.com website that we control the information on the content on this. If you want a tutorial to go over how to use something, there's tons of information on here. There's news that we try to post. There's other resources. So this is pretty easy to use. Here's what the login looks like. I'm going to skip through. And then finally, I'm going to get to, this is an interesting thing with these signs. Now, you may have seen a few of those. Maybe not, or maybe the flag. But with all the technology that we have, we have Google Maps, we have some apps, we have, we're using the internet, data intensive. These signs are some of the most popular things that we have. I kind of characterize it as our low-tech version of a communication tool that complements our tool. So we sell these by the thousands every year. It's not a money maker. We just cover our costs with it, but we sell them so that beekeepers and crop producers can put the signs, near their apiary, near their crops. The flag is a little flag, has a couple of tie wraps. You put it on a post, and you can put it near your hive. So that's what they are. That's how they kind of work. I'm going to flip over here, and I'm going to go right here. So can you see this okay? Somebody acknowledge that they can now see my screen in here.
Yep, you're good, Bob.
Okay. So I'm in our live system. and I've highlighted, this is what an applicator would see. If he was working in Northwest Ohio and has identified this area right here as where he sprays. I've identified this. I just set up my profile and my alerts here. You can see I click on alerts up here, and I've drawn this area. I could change this pretty easily if I wanted to, but I drew this alert. I could select certain counties if I wanted to, and then just go back to the map there. So this is live. So we're going to have a little, there you go. Not too bad a delay. If I just want to look at bees, I can just click over here. And I'm just going to do this briefly so you can kind of see what the applicator would see. And we're going to scroll in here with my mouse. And we've got the apiary distance on. We'll turn that one off. And see if we find somebody you know here. So I'm gonna click on this one here. Doug Irick in Defiance, Ohio. So this is, he's got 3 hives, and he updated it just a few weeks ago. And so he's already updated his map here, his site. And you can see the latitude and longitudes on here. And you zoom in a little bit more. Hopefully I find the right one here. You can see how it's highlighted just around his area. And what you'll see is that he is surrounded by farmland. I mean, I don't know what this is, whether it's corn, soybeans, or wheat, whatever it is, but it's a high likelihood that there's spraying going on in here. And so it's good that he has his sites on this map here, his beehive location here. We'll click them back on. I want to show you what the that's another. Here's a vineyard up here. You can also use this if you want to visit some local vineyards. You'll see that this one right here. So you can see how they've drawn this square, this polygon. This is David Baker, and it's about 1.6 acres, conventionally grown grapes. Got bees on site. He's already updated. And these grapes right here, that's a lot of money. An acre of grapes is a lot of the money investment. So being mapped on here helps these people all around here that are spraying around him know that those grapes are there, because any damage to those could damage a crop, not just for the year, but for several years to come. So you can see as you zoom out, more and more of the sites got grapes up here. You just scroll over, it just tells you what they're like. Here's vegetables up here. There's vegetables, and there's vegetables down here. So there's a variety of crops. The more you zoom out, the more you can see. And there's a couple of orchards up here in the near the lake. We'll see who those are. That belongs to Carolyn Witt Orchards. Apples, pears, and Asian pears. She's updated hers already too. So 33 acres. Looks like there are bees on site. So what she's identified with this little bee is that we added this feature a couple of years ago. This would tell an applicator that there are pollinators present, and she can, if they move these bees someplace else, she can turn this off. But this is just a notifier that not only is there an orchard there, but there's bees, so that somebody would be aware of it. So that's their view of the world. How they look at it. I could show you what the beekeeper view is, but I think a lot of maybe you have already seen it. So I'm going to pause for a minute, Jamie, and see if there are some questions that I can answer rather than going through more of this. I can certainly get over to the beekeeping site and show you how to map a beehive, or I can just answer some questions, or do both.
All right, we have one so far from Anthony. What percentage of known beekeepers are in Ohio that are registered?
A percentage? Woo! I'd have to ask Jared Schaefer or Barb about that question. Well, what we do know for sure is that we don't have every beekeeper registered with us. We do know that. We know that not all, especially crop producers. Some states probably have 60, 70% of their beekeepers, and some less. It just depends on the state. And it also depends on whether or not there is a registration requirement in California, all beekeepers need to register. So 100% are registered in California. We map bees out there for them with our app, but it just depends on state data. So I guess I don't have an answer for that, but that's a good question.
And as of right now, that's the only question we have.
Okay, that. Unfortunately, I couldn't even provide you a good answer to that. So I can show you really quickly here what the Beekeepers what that account looks like. This is my beekeeping account here. So here's my pop-up. So I still have one location that I've not acknowledged yet, and I need to get that done before it gets removed from the map. But this is the pop-up that you'll see. So it's pretty simple. You can see the different sites I have here. This is an apple orchard that, let's see what it looks like. See the apple orchard there. Typically we recommend that crop producers map the crops and not the buildings here. This is my wife's uncle's farm, so I know where that one's at. This is another orchard here. That's another apple orchard, and the bees are there. This is north of me, and but if I wanted to put a new hive here, I can it would be pretty easy. I've already got an account set up, so that makes it easier. To set up my account would probably take about 2 minutes to build your profile and click on that. But I can just put in here my bees. They're going to be and pollinators. I'll probably put 2 hives there. And this question right here, where it says permanent, means you're going to leave them there. You're not going to move them. Because one of the features we added was your capability to move them. If you're going to move these hives, it's going to require you to put the dates in down here. And since I'm in Indiana, we don't have a registry. This is just a voluntary, but I have to put them on here like this, and make them permanent here. So we can put them back on the map there. So that's as easy as it is. It's pretty simple. It's actually I must have missed something here. It's not letting me walk through the process here to finish it up, but let me back out of this. Cancel out of it. Always happens on a demo, doesn't it? So there you go. So I backed out of it so that I didn't actually submit it. But it's pretty simple to hit the submit button and then map the hive. I'm not sure why I didn't. See if I can do something else here real quick. Christmas trees in here. Oh, it's down here. There we go. All right, I didn't go down far enough on my screen. This is where the bee would be, so I can just put Christmas trees right here. And then submit. So it's a high likelihood that the lady in Indiana that manages these things will reject that because she knows it's not legit. So, but that's how simple it is. The same thing with a beehive. I'm not sure why. I know why now. There we go. Move it over. Put my bees in there. Pollinating. You're going to see how this. So I'm putting this one right up here. Place the hive manually. So if you can see this with my screen, if I had my iPhone or my tablet, I would just click GPS and it places the hive exactly where I'm at. So you want to be right where you're at, where you're placing these things. I'm using my desktop, so it says manually right here. I'm gonna put them at the northeast corner of the property right there. So that's how simple it is to add. So these two right here are submitted. They'll go to Beth Carter, who works with the Department of Agriculture, the Indiana State Chemist here in Indiana. She'll review them tomorrow morning and probably reject them, as she has done with my other ones. So, but some of these are legit, so they'll stay on there. So, all right, I'll pause again to see if there's any other questions about this. Yeah.
From Kathleen, are all sprayers required to check the FieldWatch and use caution accordingly? Excuse me.
So it depends what they're spraying. If you are spraying in an urban or suburban environment, some of the chemicals that are sprayed on lawns and trees and shrubs require you to be aware of pollinators. Some chemicals that are sprayed in agriculture areas require you to be aware of what's there. And there are some states, I don't think Ohio's one, where they actually notify the beekeeper. I know that in Iowa, there's a law that says if you're going to spray within a mile of the beehive, you must notify that beekeeper 48 hours in advance. It's been depending on the state. But how the tool works, it works as a voluntary tool. And we know from anecdotal evidence that a high percentage of the applicators use this tool. Not all of them log in, but almost all of them use it to know what it's like. Because when we have conversations, when Curt and I talk to applicators, either people that fly or on the ground, they always tell us the same thing. They always tell us they want to know what's nearby where they're going to spray, because they don't want to spray the bees, and they want to be part of the solution and not be part of the problem. They don't want a claim filed against them. They don't want to be in the news for spraying where they shouldn't be spraying. So they very much want to know where things are.
All right. John Betts has a question. If a FieldCheck farmer has hired a crop duster to spray a field near my registered BCheck colonies, do they contact me to when and what they are spraying?
I would say a lot of them do. A lot of them will call you and they'll just say, John, I'm spraying next Tuesday. And I mean, I've heard this story so many times. I'm spraying next Tuesday. When is a good time to spray? And like most beekeepers, you know your bees. You know that they don't leave the hives till 8 o'clock in the morning, or they're back at 5. So you may tell them, if you can spray early in the morning in that field, no problem. You may choose to close your hives for the day and just tell them they can do what they need to do anytime during the day. It's a connection between the beekeeper and the applicator, and it's a communication that goes on all the time in terms of them reaching out and asking you what they should do. Because what we need to keep in mind is they obviously have a job to do. They're spraying for a reason, whether it's weeds or pests or something else that they're spraying for. And it may not be just spraying, agricultural land, as I mentioned. We have people that spray along, railroad tracks and county highways. That sometimes what they're spraying is can kill a lot of stuff. So they're killing vegetation with it. So they certainly want to be aware of where things are too.
All right. That was answered. From Sunny, I was under the impression that the applicators in Ohio would give notice within 24 hours. I also think that part of the applicator license process was going to be registered with FieldWatch.
I can candidly say I don't know the answer to that. I need to ask Jared Schaefer. Jared is, yeah.
I can tell you this is a private applicator license in Ohio. Most of the Ohio extension is pushing FieldWatch as a private that to still reach out and how to use this because I use it for Stony Ridge Winery up in Bryan. when I spray the grapes, 14 acres of grapes.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't know that they actually require them to do that, but it would be it would be an easy question to ask Jared. He's our liaison there in Ohio, or Barb would know too.
Okay.
Yeah, it unfortunately operating in multiple states. We don't sometimes know the details of the specific state laws, but we probably should have a better idea on that, or at least have a link to it.
All right. And at the end of this, I'll show everybody an app so you can find out what kind of chemicals they're spraying and what kind of effects or health effects it'll have on your bees. And we'll cover that here shortly.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. So what are you accessing to do that?
Okay. It's called Bee Safety,
Okay.
BEESAFETY. And it's an app at the App Store. And I'll wait till the end, Mr. Walters, and I'll show that link to everybody.
Yeah, I'd love to see that too. So yeah, because the question has come up a few times about providing links through our tool to some of these other tools too. So and we can all be part of the solution there. So
yep, not a problem. Any other questions? All right, we have a couple more.
Okay.
Does BCheck show us other beehive locations, or do we need to register on FieldWatch?
Yeah, you'll be able to see. You can see I'm registered now. I'm logged in as a producer or beekeeper, and I can see other ones, not just the ones that I have. So you can see. Here's one here. This one is at a farm north of me. And you can see, I can see the other ones in the area. So the answer is yes.
All right. And Kathleen's question kind of covers that, but we'll just go over it. Does this cover crop dusters along with ground applicators?
And it's a really good question. And the answer is yes. Absolutely. And I don't know if they've started yet, but it's probably not too far down the road that they're going to start spraying in fields there in Northwest Ohio.
Yeah, they haven't started spraying yet, but it's right around the corner for us.
Yeah, what is it usually like 50, is it 50 or 55 degrees that the bees start getting a lot more active? Is that what it is?
Yeah, the bees have been pretty active here the last couple weeks. We had this little cold snap, but the bees are going to start, they're still pulling in dead nettle right now. All the maple pollen's coming in. Skunk cabbage is already about done. So a lot of the things out, and the bees are starving for protein. So anything they can get out there, they're going to get.
Let's say there's probably not much foraging right now for them right now. Not much food.
Not a lot. As far as the growing degree days, up for our region, we're up in, remember, Northwest Ohio.
Right. So
your regions on the growing degree days might be a little bit more or less compared to that.
That's true. True.
Arrows, ground. That's all the questions we have right now.
All right. Well, excellent. Well, you are welcome to share my contact information, Curt's contact information. If there are additional questions, people want to call or email us. This is what we do. We share information and we keep people updated. So we would be happy to follow up. Would love to, and maybe one of these days we can meet in person.
I'd like that.
Yeah.
I'm going to switch things over real quick, and I'll show everybody what I was talking about.
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool here. Do I need to stop sharing or not? Nope.
Nope. I got it.
Okay.
So as for me, I use this with Stony Ridge Winery when I sprayed up for the winery for 14.5 acres.
Yeah.
And like Bob said, it's a lot of money. You're talking millions of dollars just sitting in grapes.
Yeah.
So I've used this quite a bit when I had bees up there the same way. Bee Safety. And you'll see the little icon, BEESAFETY. You can download it. It's in Android and Apple. You download it on the app, and what it gives you the pesticides reducing poisoning. So as if you talk to the farmers or that you ask them what they're spraying, you don't have to have exactly the spelling correctly or know what it is. They can give you the common name. You'll type that in the search and it'll automatically pop it up and tell you what they're spraying or what they're spraying it for. So a herbicide, pesticide, fungicide, weed killers, glosophates. So it'll tell you what's going on. So I'm going to break this down for the beekeepers. What can we do when these farmers, because remember, they have a living that they need and we want a living to keep our bees alive. So what can we do to reduce the amount of poisoning for our bees? Have them spray early in the morning or late at night. Our bees are still looking for that forage. So what can you do to keep your bees at home if you're living next to fields? So I'm just going to break this down and I'll show you exactly where I live. All my bee colonies are right here. So as I zoom in, everything around me is set up with farms. So the best way to work it, my home colonies, I put a sprinkler system, set it up if they're going to spray during the day or if they have a problem, and I set it up to sprinkle. So it has the oscillator that goes back and forth. I set it up over the beehives. Most of the areas I have ditches, a 5-gallon gas can. I turn around, set it up, keep the bees. The bees think it's raining and they stay at home. There's also some other ways. If it's not as hot, and I'm talking 80, 90 plus degrees, you can actually take covers or sheets, soak them down, or put a bucket on top that'll weep real nice and slow, cover up your sheet or cover up your bees, and they can turn around and do that and they'll stay nice. The high humidity will keep the bees at home, but don't do that on a hot day that the bees are going to turn around and go out and they're going to smother or you're going to overheat them. So if you want to download that app, remember again, it's Bee Safety and it breaks down the chemicals. So if you don't know what a glyphosate is, if you don't know what a pesticide or a herbicide is, this is going to show you all those different things that are going on and what to ask the farmers. And I'm going to say this to beekeepers. The best thing that we have in our arsenal to be friendly with them is a jar of honey. Go out and have a conversation with them and say, I have my beehives that are worth $800 to $1,000. I don't want to lose mine, but they also have the cost of their tractors and that. So I'm not pitting one against the other. Do not take it that way. I'm saying they have a way that they make a living and we have a way that we're making a living and we're also helping each other at the same point. So kind of break down that barrier of they want to kill our bees. They don't. At the same point, we don't want to turn around and cause them any harm either. So taking a jar of honey, having a communication. The farmers around me, they have posts out. When they're out, I see them. I put a quart of honey up on the post or throw it in their vehicle or up on the hood. They talk to me. They tell me what they're spraying, and we have a good relationship. And it just takes time to build that relationship.
Great suggestion.
What efforts, and we have a question for you, Mr. Walters.
Sure.
What efforts are you making to get those states not involved in FieldWatch to get involved?
So we have active conversations right now in New York, Washington, Oregon, basic conversation in Kentucky, not so much, and Georgia right now. It's kind of a collaborative effort. We work with the Department of Agriculture in those states and then also with the Extension Service. For us to be successful and for them to be successful, we need multiple people involved. So we're pretty close in working with those states right now to get them using it. It just takes a little time. Everybody's got their own process to go through. So we fully expect a couple new states this year to come on board.
I have a question from Sunny. I'm on FieldWatch now. The GPS is not pinning my location. How do I mark my location on the map?
So if you're on your computer, you're not going to be able to do it because your computer probably doesn't have GPS. You have to have your phone or your tablet if you have the BCheck app and then have the GPS enabled. It should find you if GPS is enabled. I'd have to see the screen to know.
And one thing on top of that, Sonny, when you do it, they have to approve it. You just can't mark it wherever you want. So It has to be approved.
Yeah, Jared Schaefer would in the Department of Ag would see it tomorrow morning when he comes in and approve it. Then it'll show up on the map.
All right.
He does them like the next day. He's pretty good about it.
Anthony's got a question. Are homeowners who may be spraying have access to this system?
Or homeowners who are spraying?
Yes.
No, they would not be able, in Ohio, they could not see it unless they're an applicator, a registered applicator with the state. It excludes them today.
All right. And I'm going to say this is a master gardener. Remember, it's not just the farmers that use chemicals. I'm more afraid, honestly, this is my opinion. I'm more afraid of the homeowners who, where they do not read the directions and it says a capful or a teaspoon, and they put 3 teaspoons because a little bit more is a little bit better, correct?
Oh,
Wrong.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
So as a master gardener, I hear a lot of homeowners that go into the garden center and they look for triple 13 or triple this or what, and they don't know what they're doing. They just know the higher the numbers, the better it'll grow. So
yeah,
as a private pesticide applicator, there's a lot of schooling I have to take every 3 years. I have to take so many credits. The commercial people have to take a lot more than that. So there's a lot of education behind it than a homeowner that can just walk into any hardware store and buy stuff.
Yep.
Monica says, through my phone, I had to mark it myself. It would not use my GPS.
Oh, okay. Ask her if she can send us some information on that. See if we can look into that. Curt can look into that, or I can. The type of phone, and because if the GPS is enabled, you should be able to mark with just like a fingertip.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Monica, if you can send that, and she wants to know where she can send it to. So if you want to give your email address, Bob.
Yeah, or Curt probably could run it down. It's Curt.Hadley, CURT.Hadley, HADLEY at FieldWatch.com.
All right. Is there any other questions from the membership that have been on here? And Curt just put his email on there, address on there for you. So thank you very much, Curt. If not, I want to thank Mr. Bob Walters and Mr. Curt Hadley for taking the time this evening to teach us a little bit about FieldWatch, BCheck. Remember, there's the app also. Go in there and mark your colonies. Everybody wants to help each other out, and this is just putting the best foot forward to start that communication.
Yeah, and thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for the information on bee safety. I'm going to download that app.
You're welcome. I want to thank everybody. Thank you for attending, and have a good night.